Consciousness is the basis of our mind. The main function of our mind is being conscious. However, what we are conscious is very little when compared to our consciousness, underlying consciousness, which is much bigger than the consciousness that we are aware of. In Western psychology, it is called subconsciousness. Though not identical with the subconsciousness, in Buddhism, there is a reference to a stream of consciousness that has come down from the time immemorial in the samsara, in our existence, in space and time, and it is going beyond the present life into the future lives. According to Buddhism, it is the energy in this stream of consciousness that gives us a rebirth after rebirth in this existence. Therefore, the stream of consciousness is the cause of rebirth. Birth, according to Buddha, is the cause of all our suffering. Because of birth, we undergo decay, sickness, old age, and death. They are suffering. Because we are living after birth, we suffer both mentally and physically. Therefore, what Buddha wanted to find out before he got enlightened was a means of ending this human suffering. And he realized to end the human suffering, being born again and again in this samsara should come to an end. And he wanted to find out a means of ending this stream of consciousness, ending the consciousness. The normal meaning of the word consciousness is being aware. Sensation, that is also consciousness. The sensation of the sense organs are called Chakku Vijnana, Sota Vijnana, Gana Vijnana, etc. Consciousness of the ear, eye, nose, tongue, body, etc. And consciousness of the mind also. But after the sense organ become conscious of sense objects, they send signals to the mind, and our mind recognizes those signals with the help of past memories related to those signals. Signals are with regard to the sense objects that the sense organs become aware of. It is this sensation of the sense organs that generates our thoughts. Thoughts is generated by the mental energy. Mental energy is not separate from the universal energy. It is an aspect of the universal energy. Every thought is created by energy, and every thought consists of energy. When the thought disappears, it feeds the stream of consciousness with the residual power of every thought. Therefore, every thought in us feed the stream of consciousness with energy for living in this existence, energy for rebirth. And that energy left by the thoughts, every thought in our stream of consciousness is called karma in Sanskrit and karma in Pali. It is a karmic force. Maybe good karma or bad karma. Good karma, wholesome karma, makes us to be reborn in heavens. Bad karma in hells, according to karma theory. The basic thing is our thinking creates energy and save that energy in a residual form in our stream of consciousness so that we are born again and again to undergo the result, the fruit of our thinking, good thinking, bad thinking or neutral thinking. Therefore, ending of this feeding consciousness was the aim of the Buddha. That is why he experimented with his own mind. And ending of consciousness was the ultimate result he arrived at. Nirvana is nothing but the cessation of consciousness. Cessation of especially the stream of consciousness by not feeding it through our thoughts. Therefore, what happened at the Enlightenment was the mind becoming free of thoughts and feelings, not creating any more energy to be reborn again hereafter. Therefore, we can call enlightenment as the ending of consciousness. But this is only our individual consciousness. Scientists have found out now there is a cosmic consciousness, and it is sometimes referred to as universal consciousness. Every event in this universe is caused by a certain power that the scientists refer to as the universal consciousness. The creativity, behind the creativity of the universe, scientists think that there's a consciousness, there's a universal mind generating all activities of the universe. And there's another theory in physics, in science, which says conservation of energy. It's a principle that scientists accept. According to that principle, according to that law, conservation of energy, that law, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Therefore, even after enlightenment and passing away through Nibbana, the energy of the body and the mind of an Arahant, enlightened one, cannot be said to be completely extincted. The energy is there. What happens is that individual separated unit called the self is no more. The idea of self comes to an end at the first stage of enlightenment called Sotapanna, translated into English as stream winner, going into the stream of going into the path towards enlightenment. After enlightenment, thinking ceases completely. But the awareness, the consciousness is there. But that consciousness is not the individual consciousness. We cannot understand it. Buddha says, Nirvana Vijnanam Anidassana. Vijnanam means the consciousness of the Nirvana, enlightened mind. Anidasanam, there is no example. I can show it by an example. And there is a super consciousness. And that consciousness can be aware of things without sensory perception. There is extrasensory perceptions. Thoughts are caused by sensory perception. No non-formation of thoughts after enlightenment, that is called visankara gatan chittam, means although the enlightened ones become aware of sense stimulation through sense objects, they are not guided by the future related knowledge saved in our brain cells, our hard disk, human hard disk. That is our knowledge. Knowledge means ditti, ideas, form ideas, all ideas, based on all experience. All experience are limited, defective, not complete. That is our knowledge is our ignorance. Though we think that we know certain things, what we don't know about that thing is much more than what we know. Therefore, our knowledge always consists of more ignorance than knowledge. Therefore, the enlightened ones are not guided by the knowledge, the past memories. They are not traveling back into the past memories, nor do they travel mentally into the future, unborn future. For them, the past is dead. The future is unborn. Only the present is living, and they live in the present moment. Present moment is the point in which the past and the future meets. It is only a point. There is no space and time in it. It is timeless. That is why Nirvana is called Akalika. Enlightened live at the present moment. And their consciousness is not individual consciousness, but the universal consciousness. Due to that universal consciousness, they can become one with the other being or other thing. That is called samana atmata. They can get absorbed in other beings and other things mentally. With that, there is no individuality of the enlightened one. It is like after enlightenment, the mind is like a drop of water. Our mind is separated from the universe and the consciousness of the others, like a drop of water, but once it drops into the sea or to the lake, it is no more as a separate unit of water, as a separate drop, but it is there in the lake or in the ocean throughout. Therefore, we cannot say the water drop is there or not there. That is the state of an Allahat, enlightened one, passing away into the universal nature, into the universal consciousness, into the consciousness, cosmic consciousness. Therefore, ending of consciousness is the ending of the individual consciousness. the individual consciousness that has flowed, that was flowing into our present life and flowing further into our future lives, is called a stream of consciousness, Vijnana Srota. And Vijnana Srota comes to an end because it is no more fed by thoughts after enlightenment. Visangaragata Chittang. There is no thinking, because thinking is caused by our self, the need of our self, the need of our thirst of our self for pleasure, for bliss, for happiness. And that is called Kama Tanha in Pali. And we have a separate ideal of the taste that we like. Some may like hot food, some may like cool food, some may like sweet, some may like bitter. Our tastes are different. Therefore, we like the pleasure or happiness or bliss in the way that we like. That's called Kama Chanda. We want things to happen in the way we like. That is called Bhava Tanha. Bhava means happening. Tanha means the desire to happen, for things to happen in the way that we want. Vibhava Tanha means for the non-happening of events in the way that we don't want. But this is negative and positive desire. Positive desire for an event to take place, negative desire for an event not to take place. Therefore, we think of things that we like to happen as well as that we don't like to happen. Our thoughts are based on our likes, dislikes, and also the ignorance that causes our likes and dislikes. We like things without not knowing the real nature of it. We dislike something not knowing the real nature of it. Once you are enlightened, your mind is free from likes, dislikes and ignorance. Free from likes means vitaragi. Raga means attachment. Vitaragi means non-attached to any idea, any ideal. Dosa means dvesha means resentment, hatred. Enlightened mind, they don't like anything, they don't dislike anything. No attachment, no resentment. Because they know the reality of things, that everything is born to decay and die. Then what happens? With the enlightenment, thinking ceases, but the mind continues, which is awareness. The mind has two main functions. Mind becomes conscious of things, and mind starts thinking of things that the mind becomes conscious of. Although thinking ceases, there is kind of consciousness which cannot be understood through examples, because there is super consciousness. There is an extrasensory consciousness. They know things beyond the recognitions of sense organs. Therefore, that consciousness is called Ananta in Pali. In the Kevada Sutta of the Buddhist canon, Anantang Sabbato Pabam. Anantam means endlessly, beyond limits, boundlessly. Pabam means light. Light means a poetical way of thing, can see things. Things are not in the dark, everything is in the light. That consciousness covers the entire time and space, beyond all limits. What ceases is our limited individual consciousness. That is the dissolution of the individuality into the unlimited space and time. With that, there is the ending of the individual consciousness, the individuality, a remnants of the individuality. Even after enlightenment, Buddha had a mind and a body that was formed before the enlightenment. It continues, and ultimately thinking stops and the consciousness of that enlightened mind stops. This ending of the consciousness is nothing but enlightenment. That is called Vijnana Nirodha. But real word used in Buddhism is Sanya Vedaita Nirodha. Sanya means signals given by the sense organs. Sense organs become consciousness and send signals to the mind. The mind has the capacity to be aware. That awareness is called Sanya Vedaita. And that sensation of the sense organs do not become pleasurable or painful. It is free from Vedana, free from feeling. Enlightened ones can become aware of things without feeling of pleasantness or unpleasantness or neutralness. There is only pure awareness. Pure means devoid of feelings. Feeling is called Vedana in Pali. That awareness without feeling is called Vedaita, knowing. So, that knowing can stop temporarily at a trance called Sanya Vedaita Nirodha. By getting absorbed in Sanya Vedaita Nirodha, the Arahant enlightenment rejuvenate their mind and the body. It gives a rest. The trance of Sanya Veda. It is called not knowing the sensations. Not knowing the sense signal, Sanya Vedati Nirodha. It is temporary. But once at Nibbana, the final passing away, there is a complete extinction of sensation called Sanya Vedaita. Sensation without feeling. Enlightened are neither happy nor unhappy. They experience neither pain nor pleasure. Experience means they are not feeling it. They know it. They become aware of it, but they don't suffer. Therefore, enlightenment is called ending of suffering. Suffering means the feeling of suffering. Though feeling of suffering is coming to an end at the enlightenment, the awareness of the mind remains pure. It is a pure awareness, undefiled by past memories and undefiled by feelings. Past memories are called prejudices. In Karaniya Sutra it said, Dittincha anupagamma silava dassanena sampanno. That is the mental of an arahant one. Dittincha anupagamma, free from prejudices. Dassanena sampanno, seeing things. How? Seeing things as they are. That is called yatha bhuta jnana dassana in Pali. Not only seeing things that they are able to, they can accept things as they are. Because that enlightened mind knows That is how that thing or being is. It cannot be in any other way. And the enlightened mind can accept it as it is, or as he is, or as she is. Because that mind is not controlled by the prejudices called knowledge. They live in the present moment. They see things here. Seeing here means ehi passiko in Pali. Ehi means here, passiko means seeing. Sandittika means seeing now. They live in the present moment, not in the past, because they are not guided by past memories, not in the future, they have no future hopes. That is where their mind is blissful. As long as they are living after enlightenment, there is constant awareness. That is why they are called Jagaryan Yoga. Their mind does not sleep, always alert, always aware. Knowing is there. Knowing is, in our terms we can say, they become conscious of sense signals. Being conscious of sense signals come to an end at the final passing away called Nibbana in Pali, Parinibbana, and attainment of Nibbana, enlightenment, is the point at which the thinking ceases. Non-thinking mind becoming aware of things as they are, we cannot understand as an actuality. We can understand it only as an idea. What we have heard, what we have read, what we have thought, they are all mental images. What we know of the extinction of consciousness is only an idea. That consciousness of enlightenment are free from ideas. Ideas are called ditti in Pali. Dittincha anupagama sila, as I mentioned earlier. Therefore, we too can reach that level first by stopping the thinking process. It happens in meditation. Within few seconds, within a time, less than a minute, an ascetic called Bhaya got enlightened by listening to the Buddha for the shortcut to Nirvana. What is shortcut? Don't think of any of the sensations. Just be aware. That means don't think. The mind becomes free of thoughts. Not only thoughts, mind becomes free of feeling. And that is the living nirvana. While living nirvana, we can experience the nirvana in our mind when we are in a meditation trance without thinking of anything or without feeling of attachment or resentment or ignorance of anything. And that ultimately, as I mentioned, leads to the final extinction of the consciousness. That is the final achievement of enlightenment. First, as I mentioned, cessation of the thinking process, and finally, the cessation of the conscious process. By that, the stream of consciousness that came from life after life throughout our existence comes to its final end. And the enlightened one become part and parcel of the cosmic consciousness, universal consciousness, part of the universe. Because that energy, enlightened energy, can neither be created nor destroyed. It is not born. That energy is called ajata. It is not born. Enlightened energy, nirvana. Abhuta means it doesn't happen. Akata means it cannot be done. Asankata means it can be formed. It is there. It is the energy that is not born, and that is not getting decayed, and that is not dying. That is why I call nirvana amaraniya. Ajata, not born. Ajaramara, not decaying. Ajaramara, jara means decaying, mara means dying. Non-decaying, non-dying. Eternal, eternity. Enlightenment is becoming part and parcel of the eternity, discarding the individual consciousness. It is discarded at the enlightenment, but its remnants, residual nature remains until the final passing away into parinibbana. That means not only the mind, the entire body dies. As long as the body is there, awareness is there. That awareness is a kind of consciousness, and with parinibbana it comes to its final extinction. One day that happens to us because our stream of consciousness have come throughout the existence, and it should one day come to an end. It is a process of consciousness. Thoughts, consciousness is born to vanish, and again another consciousness. Because every moment we are becoming conscious of different thing. It is not the continuity of one consciousness, it is a continuity of a chain of consciousness. Different links, one link, another link, another link, another link, that is a chain. That chain is broken at the enlightenment and finally vanishes into non-existence as a separate individual after final passing away. Even after enlightenment, Buddha lived as a separate individual with a separate mind and a separate body. That comes to an ending, extinction. And because the extinction of consciousness, stream of consciousness, an enlightened one, a Buddha is never born again.